It's basically nobody is spared in this, in this economic world. Everybody has a motive, and every business is critical. Every vertical, every customer is having challenges in addressing these concerns. So we're going to briefly cover on the IBM Security Intelligence and Analytics. So the framework, which is basically an extract of the COBIT process, where we have identified the key challenges and how do we stitch these challenges together to bring more visibility and better context into security. So people, anything to do with the people, identity and access management security, data when it comes to data in motion, data at rest, databases, masking of data. We can talk about any aspect which is relevant to data, and then you have the applications, which needs to be either you need to have a security built in, and or on top of that you also complement that by doing consistent scans of your applications, whether it is production applications, to find out how do we proactively go and fix vulnerabilities. Then you have the infrastructure piece, which covers a very, very large part of any organization today. Most of the organizations are using IT to drive business today, which is a great thing to see. But that itself is bringing in a lot of challenges for customers to address infrastructure-related security issues. Encompassing that, we have the Advanced Security Threat Research, which is our IBM X-Force team, which is one of the world's largest research and development organization exclusively focused on security. It's one of the oldest organizations and one of the very, very well-known organizations across the world. We have built advanced fraud protection also as a part of this, I would say, a framework. And encompassing all of this is our security intelligence and analytics, which talks about how do you get visibility into these various aspects of security, whether it is to do with people, data, application, or infrastructure, and bring in that visibility, which is what most of the organizations are missing today. A quick recap on IBM security in the past. IBM has been a very strong player in security since a long time, but it's been mostly into mainframe. Then as time went by, we started acquiring some very niche and very, I would say, focused technologies in each of the domain, whether it has to do with access management, whether it has to do with privilege identity management, or whether it's to do with application security, intrusion prevention, endpoint security. Recent acquisitions have been, the MAX 360, which is into mobile device management, which is one of the most, I would say, widely used solution in the mobile device management sector. And then we have the trust tier, which is into fraud and analytics. One of the key acquisitions which IBM did in 2011 was the QRadar Q1 Labs. And Q1 Labs was one of the very niche players into security intelligence, security information management, event management, and bringing in the intelligence which customers need to take appropriate actions. And of course, these visibility definitely cuts down the time you need to take to respond to a particular threat. Right? So after this acquisition, most of the IBM security portfolio now is all part of the same division, which is IBM Security Systems. And going to the next, going to the next slide, this is just a broad, product portfolio. I don't want to dwell much detail into it. I can definitely share this slide. The agenda is not to talk about each product today, but today IBM has the most comprehensive portfolio, whether it's to do with people security, data security, application, or infrastructure. And encompassing that is the advanced fraud protection. And over that, we have how do we use all this information to feed to our security intelligence and analytics, not just the IBM solutions. It could be any third-party solutions which can feed into the security intelligence and analytics. And we have truly big data of security today in the industry, where we can take information from any system and then bring the visibility for customers to predict risk, for customers to predict IT, compromises, any attacks, any preemptive protection. Basically, bring in a lot of context and visibility to the customers from the security side. This is a small journey on Q Labs, which is acquired by IBM in 2012, and we started off as a plain simple flow intelligence or flow visualization tool, and on top of that we built the log management platform, which is basically collecting logs from different devices. Then we have the correlation engine, which is the SIEM engine, which has the predefined rule sets or predefined rules, which basically look at what is the context of the attack, and then we have all these rules chained into something called an incident, right? We had been pretty successful in the last 3-4 years in adding very advanced technologies like risk management, vulnerability management. Forensics is one very interesting piece which most of the customers are talking about, and that's basically today IBM QRadar portfolio is fully capable of doing forensics and doing a complete replay of a packet, including the complete exfiltrated data or whatever has been the stolen data, right? So here's a slide which talks about why is QRadar such a great tool in bringing in security intelligence, right? We just don't integrate only with security devices, which is pretty much most of the our competitors do, right? We bring in additional context by integrating applications, databases. We have something called flow data information, right? Typically, most of the events are like your pictures or like your snapshots, right? Now these can be edited, modified, morphed, deleted, disabled. Anything can be done, once an event occurs, right? But basically, flows gives you a real-time data as to what is happening right now, right? On top of that, we can also add another context, which is a configuration management or configuration information. How does it help, right? For example, if you have a certain port open on a firewall, right, and I see that there is a vulnerability associated with one of the applications in your system, I can correlate these two and clearly predict risk that there is a potential port open and also a potential vulnerability. Now, looking at the context and correlation of these two, clearly it tells you that you're waiting to be compromised, right? The third aspect, the fourth aspect which we'll bring in is the vulnerability information. We have our own vulnerability engine, or we can also feed other vulnerability tools like your Nessus or CrossGuard or Foundstone. And these tools can be, you can just send the vulnerability information, and we can do a correlation and tell you whether you're already compromised, or you're waiting to compromise, or whether the attack has occurred, but the vulnerability, the patch has been updated. So that kind of information comes from the vulnerability aspect of it, right? And finally, identity, right? Identity is not just about your Active Directory, right? It could be with your access card readers, it could be your single sign-on applications, it could be your MDM solution, it could be your endpoint solution which you're using. We get all this together and integrate and look at the context of the incident, right? And finally, the real-time threat intelligence. Today, IBM Exposed team brings in all the best, real-time global threat intelligence, which basically tells you that if the current view of an attack or current view of how a compromise is being happened, and how well are you configured or how well are you prepared to protect that, right? And we basically take all this information and feed that into QRadar, and then we have the log correlation engine, which basically crunches this data and then produces something called an incident, which is nothing but a very look like a needle in the haystack, right? When you talk about events, it could be millions, right? But when you talk about incidents, we crunch millions into a few, probably hundreds or less than hundreds. Depends on what is the environment you have implemented the tool in, right? And since last 6 years now in a row, IBM has been into the leadership quadrant in the security analytics space, security intelligence space, and the clear differentiators are highlighted by Gartner down there, which are the ease of deployment and the time to value that customers get to see the return on investment is much quicker in case of IBM QRadar security intelligence platform. and the additional capabilities like your flow information, behavioral analysis. And these are some of the additional capabilities which QRadar brings in as a part of the network behavioral and analytics. And then we have the the vulnerability and the deep packet inspection capabilities, and in fact now we have the forensics capabilities, which clearly can stitch the attack from the time it started to the time of compromise. Talking about some of the aspects of IBM Security Intelligence, right? Today, most of the customers have visibility into what has already happened, right? Which is like a post-exploit condition, right? What QRadar Security Intelligence platform is built on is to first look at what are the external and internal threats, right? Which is basically comes from your vulnerability feeds, or we look at something called asset classification. We do also asset prioritization and basically understand what kind of assets these are, and based on that you can assign a weightage to an asset. So it basically tells you what are the critical assets and what are the internal and external environment, right? And then basically we give you a pre-exploit analysis to tell you, are you configured to protect against that? So this basically comes from a correlation between a vulnerability feed, or we see that there's an FTP server which is sitting there in the DMZ and which has access to anonymous user, right? And that's basically an information which can be used saying that are you really configured well to protect your assets, right? And what QRadar brings in is to understand what is happening right now, right? Which is the most critical part, because if you can take some action to stop the attack, right now, and that's probably one of the most areas where customers are lacking today, because they always have things to what has happened, right? And they have some information as to what is wrong with my systems, but they do not know what is happening right now. So QRadar Security Intelligence Platform brings in visibility to give you that information as to what is happening right now. For example, if there is a data transfer happening, from an internal host to an external botnet site for the last, say, about 2 hours, we can quickly flag that out and put that as an incident and tell you what kind of information really went out for you to take actionables to probably block the firewall port on the, block the port on the firewall. And in a sense, what is security intelligence, right? Most of the environments today are anyways collecting events, right? They're storing events. How do they do analysis on that? It's pretty much relative to organization to organization, but that's pretty much it, right? And then you say that, okay, that's all the visibility I have. And that for QRadar, the security intelligence doesn't just end with events. We look at network data, which is nothing but the net flow, or a J flow, or a S flow, which is basically the layer 4 information to understand how the systems are communicating and what are the services they're using. And by using this, we get to know what are the critical assets in your environment, and we can also do asset classification based on what is kind of traffic we see in the net flow. And then we have our own flows, which is the application data, which is Q flow, which is the layer 7 intelligence. For example, if there is a transaction happening, from Kazakhstan, right, and somebody's trying to log in using the remote desktop to one of your servers, now that's the visibility which no tool today in the market can give you, right? Because application intelligence, to understand what application is the attacker using to come to your environment, is such a critical aspect to understand the behavior of an attacker, right? If the attack may not always go through, but it basically always tells you that it probably is a reconnaissance attempt. And the reconnaissance in context of application is very, very important, because that helps you build, at least a level of intelligence and level of probably correlation rules around what kind of applications do you see which are consuming more data, which are being compromised, and what applications you need to protect in your environment. Then we also build in network topology, which comes from our risk management solution, because we can take the feeds from, we can take the configuration input file from a firewall or a router and exactly do an analysis and find out what kind of configuration is missing in it, and with the current configuration, what compromises do we see based on the events which are already coming onto QRadar, and what are the unused rules which have been lying there as a part of the configuration, which can potentially lead to a compromise tomorrow, right? And the fifth aspect is the vulnerability data. We also have our own vulnerability scanning engine. We can take vulnerabilities from information from other tools and then use that information to build a context saying that if there is a vulnerability and if there is an attack, and can I correlate these two and say whether the attack has been blocked or whether the attack has been compromised? Are you still at risk, or is probably an open vulnerability which waiting to be compromised? Right. To that, as you said, we also add the identity context, which is a very important piece to say that what is the user who was a part of this compromise, right? Or what is the root account which is a part of this compromise, or what is an asset which is a part of this compromise. And of course, on top of this, we also use threat intelligence context, which includes reputation feeds, component metrics, UL categorization, news, and vulnerability advisors, which are pretty much a part of security operations center. Right? And these are all run real time. It's not that this is all happening, and a lot of manual intervention is required. It's all happening in real time. As in when things are flowing into the QRadar, the correlation of this information across all these vectors is happening simultaneously, right? And that's how we get to know, to an extent, that we can do even forensic study as to who did what. We already spoke about some of this in the next generation, security intelligence module, that we pretty much have information of what happened after attack, right? But QRadar solution looks at attack from a different perspective. One is before the attack, how well are you configured, and how well are you protected, or what are the vulnerabilities? During the attack, right? What is happening? What is going on? What are the targets involved? What are the victims involved? And after the attack, how do I set all this information together and stitch it to you and give it to you, saying that this is how the compromise happened, with the proof and forensics and probably evidence of data as well, right? And that's pretty much summarizes what we call an incident. In our terminology we call it an offense, but in the industry terminology it's just an incident. But sometimes incident is misunderstood as an event, so that's why we had to consciously take a call not to use the word incident, because if there's a SQL injection attack, we just go ahead and call that as an incident. That's really not an incident, because that's already being reported by another IPS tool or another your UTM or any other security device. But my intelligence or my visibility should be able to tell whether the SQL injection attack has any other correlation parameters from the database logs, from the application logs, from the user log, from the Active Directory logs, and correlate this information and say there's a SQL injection attack, the system is vulnerable for for a SQL vulnerability, and then the target, the SQL injection attack was targeted towards the vulnerable server, and possibly there's a compromise because there's a user involved, after which compromised, we saw some data going out, right? Now that's the information to level to which we call an offense. So it's not just one event which we throw it out as an incident. So that's why we like to call it as offense. And this is across all the infrastructure. It's not just your security devices, your servers, mainframes, network devices, your virtual environment, data security and data bases like your anything to do with your databases, or whether it is static or data in motion, or data which is probably residing in moving from one location to the other. Then you have the application activity, which comes from different applications, configuration management, vulnerability and threat data, and user identity. Now, using all this information, we take all this information on the QRadar Security Intelligence platform, and then crunch the data using the correlation engine using the anomaly baseline rules which we have, and we come out with something called an offense, which is probably a complicated mathematical calculation of what is the credibility, severity, and relevance, which at this stage is not so relevant. But yeah, an offense is basically very, very highly focused compromise or incident which has probably lakhs of events or flows or vulnerability information associated with an offense. So that's the portfolio which the QRadar talks about. When no customer is going to start with everything at a time. So we have customers starting with log management, which is basically understanding what are the devices which can integrate with the system. And QRadar has the largest amount of devices integrated out of the box, right? Not just your security devices, but a lot of applications and databases. Then customers slowly progress towards SIEM, which just means they want to do correlation after collecting all the information, which is a part of the QRadar SIEM portfolio. And then we have the application and network visibility, so which is a net flow and Q flow. Now, flows give you a very, very valuable information, right, as to what is happening on your network. For example, if there is a new virtual machine which is booted on your network, right, and this information generally doesn't come from anywhere. Whereas QRadar, if you have your net flow and virtual flows, collecting virtual flows, we can quickly say that, okay, there's a virtual machine which is booted in your DMZ. So immediately, as an administrator, a security administrator can probably run a VM scan on the machine to find out if the system is prepared to go live, right? So that's the kind of visibility which net flows and application flows give you. Then the next piece comes as risk and vulnerability management, right? And for example, today customers are looking at scalability in terms of, today I have about, I'm doing about probably 1,000 events. I'm collecting 1,000 events. Tomorrow I'm going to 5,000, right? And after I move to 10,000, is the solution scalable for at least for the next 7 to 10 years? And that's the very important question which QRadar addresses, is that none of the piece of infrastructure which you implement from the IBM QRadar stack goes obsolete. It's just that the solution can be upgraded using software licenses, and then you can continue to use and fill the capacities which suits as for the enterprise. And finally, the forensics piece, which is probably, the reason why it is at the last is because this shows the maturity cycle of a customer, right? How the customer wants to grow. There are customers who have taken up all of that as a project in a single year and implemented it. There are customers who say, let me just start with one point and then slowly add security context to it, right? And forensics gives you a complete packet capture capabilities, and those packet capture details are straight away tagged to offenses, and which means to say that if you click on an offense or an incident, you can actually see what is the associated packet captures for that compromise, right? And these are some of the solution considerations that most of our customers do. And it should be scaling performance, there should be fault tolerance, redundant, right? It should support third-party environment. It should not be too much relying on proprietary information, distributed data processing, classification. How well do you scale on data? Like, there are customers today who are saying, I don't want to back up my data on a SAN or a NAS, right? Can you give me complete online data retention on QRadar? The answer is yes. Using the data node, you can keep scaling online data retention, and you can just build your own security big data platform in your environment. You don't need to rely on any other teams or any other backup software to go ahead and do security analytics or back up the data and then feed into a big data platform. These are some additional considerations. The ease of implementation is definitely one of the key reasons why we have succeeded and come this far. And some of the proof points have been the largest of telcos, the largest of banks in India, the largest of IT companies in India. And these customers have restored a lot of faith because they were very tentative to start with whether the solution, can be, implemented quickly and shown value in less time. And that's what we have achieved with most of the customers, is that we could show that in very less time we can integrate, deploy, tune, and show the value to the tool. Otherwise, for most of the customers until recently, SIEM is just a white elephant. We just implement it, and then to maintain that, there's a lot of cost to it, and finally customers give up and say that I can't afford it. The reason why QRadar solution is adopted by customers so quickly is because it is automated to a great extent. When it comes to monitoring of devices, monitoring function, or analysis function, or anything to do with your responses or reports, or even administrative functions, it's the most automated tool in the industry available today in the space of security analytics. And finally, coming to an important piece, which is the cybersecurity. Right? Today, most of the customers are talking about cybersecurity initiatives and how do we address this a larger platform, and what are the use cases, and what do we want to see in cybersecurity. So QRadar today is fully fledged tool which can do complete packet capture and stitch together these details into an incident, and which can be used as a proof, where in whichever compliance or in any federal code, where you can claim that this is how the compromise happened, and in some cases it could be probably used as a compensation, right? And in some cases it can be used as suing the attacker. Probably it could be a competitive organization. You never know, right? So, but this basically gives you very valuable information on to how do you go back and do a detailed analysis and catch hold of the compromise and the attacker, and then probably rectify your configurations or whatever I would say remediation needs to be done in your environment to go ahead and fix, so that such incidents do not occur in future. So this gives you a complete view of who did this with the username and IP addresses, what they did, like what behavior did they engage in, whether it was a data lake cage, whether it was what do you call injecting a malware, or whether it was compromising a host or shutting down a service. All the details can be seen in the forensics tool, and when, right, including the full timeline of how long this attack was happening. Probably it was an advanced persistent threat which was just there for 6 months, and finally at the end of 6th month you got compromised, right? So the forensics tools will tell you what was actually the timeline of the attack. So basically you can trace step-by-step movement of the with complete clarity, and you can do a chronological order as to it can be presented in a court of law in case if there is such a provision for the organization. See, some of the key differentiators, we already spoke about it, but just want to quickly summarize the key differentiators of QRadar, Security Intelligence Layer platform. We're not an SIEM. So most of the customers today are just still, think of QRadar as an SIEM. We're not an SIEM. We're a security intelligence operating system, which is fastly integrating and tightly, integrating new solutions and third parties, and including our own new innovations into our product to make it, a very important communicator in the ecosystem, right? And that's why we have so many additional components like the flow, which adds one context, application, which adds another context, risk management is another context, and we have now big data integration with third parties like Hadoop or Big Insights, which is another context which can be used to predict business risk. So these are some of the names of the OEMs which we already support out of the box, so that you don't need to go ahead and worry about building connectors for the same. This is just a very small list. We have a comprehensive list of more than 500, about 500 plus devices integrated without you wanting to put in any additional professional service effort. And finally, coming to traditional SIEM versus the security intelligence platform. And what is the differentiator? Today, customers are starting to with initially by logs, right? From logs, they're slowly moving to events. And after events, probably they're saying, okay, let me also capture flows and understand what do I see now, or what is happening right now. And then they do a complete packet capture using some tool like RSA or Solera, right? And then you have obviously some of the other configuration management tool or a vulnerability management tool in the environment to understand what is missing or what is vulnerable, right? Now these are various solutions. You need about 6 products or 6 vendors, and still it is not integrated. Whereas the QRadar security intelligence and analytic platform today does all of this on a single platform, including the correlation and the intelligence inbuilt, right? Whereas if you look at third-party solutions, which are so many of them, you still need to have some very intelligent person sit out there and write and understand and correlate and put those rules together for you to see the value of that incident. These are some of the observations of the customers who have deployed, right, our solution and against the competition. And as I said, the solution is very easy to deploy. Is very the data reduction ratio is very, very high. So if you have a lack of events coming in every day, it comes, the number of incidents are crunched down to 10 or 20, which is very easy to manage, and reduce false positives. The best part is decrease in the timeline for detected compromise. Most organizations today will go to if there is a compromise to collect the proof, sometimes it takes about 3 to 6 months or even maybe a year. With QRadar, they're able to detect it probably in a day or 2 and quickly produce the information required for the respective teams to take action. Right. So with that, I would like to conclude my session with some use cases. These are some of the use cases which you can implement on QRadar, and these are some of the useful links. So we run our own dedicated YouTube channel, which is IBM Security Solutions, and there's a dedicated channel for QRadar, which is IBM Security QRadar on YouTube, and we have our own portal, which is ibm.com/security. One of the very important things probably you can do is follow us on Twitter, which is IBM Security. And securityintelligence.com is one of our, I would say blogs where we put in a lot of information as to what we see, what new trends we envisage, and what are the new solutions, and how do we address the current challenges. That's a very, very interesting portal, securityintelligence.com. Feel free to write to me. You have my email address at the start of the presentation, and have my contact details. Feel free to write to me in case you have any queries and you want any help in consulting or probably getting some ideas to what is the current preparedness and how do you want to go forward. With that, I conclude my session. Thank you. So I'll pass on the my presentation, rights to Jan Prakash from Paladion. Right. So he's going to be doing a 15-minute session, post which we'll have a Q&A. Yeah, you can. It's all yours.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Uma Shankar, for the brief session. Hello, everybody. Greetings from Paladion Networks. So I'm going to talk about Paladion capabilities on SIEM and SOC services. So Paladion, being as a specialized full suite security provider, so we provide end-to-end IT security services only to our customers, and we have been in this industry for the past 14 years, from now. And Paladion being on a year-on-year, we have been growing a lot with our innovative implementation technologies, our methodologies, and we have more than 500 plus technical consultants across the globe who's doing the job for us and for our customers. So Paladion being the full end-to-end IT security provider, we don't concentrate anything beyond security. So that is our major core business area. So we provide, we give more value to our customers. So this is the if you see the next slide. So the this is our global footprints. So we have customers across the globe where we are doing the SOC services, and we are doing our we go to the customer place and set up the security operations in for customers, or if we do it as a remote services for the customer from our global SOC. Based out in various locations in India, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and US and Canada. So we have our presence across the globe, and we have done covered almost 30 plus customers in BFSI segments, and around 17 plus customers in non-BFSI. So this is just from our SOC services, managed SOC. So moving to our expertise, so Paladion, apart from the core business, what we do as security consultation and our the testing services. So the other major part which we concentrate is on the SIEM and SOC services. So we right from the scratch, we help our customers to set up their procure a SIEM tool, and set up their SOC. So Paladion being a silver accreditation partner with IBM for QRadar security intelligence platform. So we have many number of skilled resources who certified from IBM, and we have done multiple deployments with IBM QRadar security intelligence. When I say IBM QRadar security intelligence platform, as Uma Shankar rightly said, we don't call it as SIEM. It's a security intelligence platform. So we have the entire modules available in QRadar as a one single platform, and it is so you have multiple advantages in terms of deployment, in terms of identifying the actual incidents which is happening in the network. So we Paladion being the service providers, so we start from our expert consultation. So we help our customers right from the beginning in order to identify the scope for the customer, and then size the customer requirements, and propose the apt model for the customer to procure. And we help the customer to identify and procure the correct model which best suits their requirement. And post to that, we do the professional services and training and operations part. When I say professional services, so we do the end-to-end implementation, so which we will see more in detail in the next coming slides. So how we do this? So we have expert SIEM consultants. We have a team of 100 plus people who's dedicated towards SIEM and security intelligence platforms, who works on IBM QRadar to give more value to the customers worldwide. So from our past experience, we have performed over 50 plus professional services engagement with SIEM implementation, out of which 25 plus are captive SOC builds. So when I say captive SOC builds, it is nothing but we have different models of setting up the security operations center for the customer. So why I am telling all this basically is because, see, IBM QRadar being a wonderful tool in the market, so a customer is satisfied to buy the tool. So once you have the tool in place, once you have the tool ready in your network, so how do you utilize it properly to get the information? So there are a lot of things which is involved. So you need to identify the correct log sources which needs to be integrated. We need to write the proper correlation rules which should be triggered in case of any actual incidents which is identified in the network. So IBM QRadar security intelligence being a platform, so we do the complete fine tuning, and we create n number of use cases, and we have the best practice which we follow in order to do the implementation process. So we excel in all this end-to-end SIEM deployment and setting up SOC services. So with Paladion, so what is the benefit we get out of Paladion in order to have a deployment or procure and deploy and have the security operation centers in place in order to have a real-time monitoring and all the process in place. So Paladion does the implementation services. So we don't we use our entire experience what we had in the past, and we produce all those to our new customers. So wherein we get benefit out of, the customer gets benefit in getting complete control. So where by implementing the tool in the customer place, by understanding the exact requirement from the customer. So we understand the pain point of the customer, and we do the implementation, and we tune the product accordingly, so that the customer can very well utilize their investment from the deployment of the tool in their environment. So get efficient. So what I mean to say here, the faster rollout with fewer resources. So as again I said, so we have excel in this particular platform for the past 10 to 14 years. So we have all the process, we have all the kind of methodologies, the steps, procedures which we need to follow, the prerequisites, what and all to be done. So we have a way of doing our implementation which nobody else in the market is doing at present. So that is a value we give to our customer in terms, for example, you have a range of 100 to 200 devices which needs to be integrated with couple of classic use cases, and then have the automated rules which needs to be created, and reports, dashboards which needs to be created according to the customer's requirement. So we have the best practice which we follow. So we go to the customer environment first. We do the best homework based on the requirement, and we do the faster rollout to the customer in order to give more benefit to the customer. So in this case, so instead of having 3 or 4 people resource to do a job, we will be able to finish it in 1 or 2 resources with less man-day efforts. So this helps our customers to get the work done in very less commercials and with more benefits from the implementation. So then get the compliant. So as I mentioned, we have advanced use cases. So QRadar being a best tool in the market at present, so has a default thousands of default rules. So but all these rules has to be fine-tuned as per the requirement. For example, the thresholds has to be changed, the rules has to be though false positives has to be identified. We have to do a complete log analysis, and then we implement the actual use case in place for the customer to just start the operations work. So being an expert in this vertical, we provide all our experience, all our previous findings in different customers. We implement all that in our new customer base, and then provide a best value out of our implementation service. Paladion differentiators. So capability to execute. So as I mentioned, so we have the security operations. We are doing the security operations services for more than 14 years, for close to 14 years now, and we have around 650 plus customers globally, and large number of certified skilled resources which is the major strength for Paladion, I would say. And we have a Gartner recognized model in terms of professional service and setting up SOC, and for our implementation service, all that. And we follow unique methodologies for implementation. We just don't do plain vanilla deployment in our customer place. So we have a unique methodology which we follow as a best practice to efficiently deploy the product in customer environment. So when I say we don't deployment phase, so we just don't provide deployment. As I say, end-to-end SIM SOC consulting. So we will do if a customer, for example, a customer who was already having a SIM solution, but he's not able to utilize the solution properly. So we can step in there as a gap assessment consultant to provide the we will do a complete gap assessment and provide reports to the customer on the gaps what we identified in the existing deployment and the existing usage. So we find the gaps and we give the suggestions to close the gaps. So there can be taken in any kind of scenario. So if the customer wants us to just do the gap assessment and provide the reports and recommendations, we are ready for it. And if the customer wants us to do gap assessment, reports, and the recommendations has to be fixed by us, we are okay to do that. And if there is something I said before, that the customer don't have a SIEM but they have a requirement, like they have a compliance requirement and they have the budget to buy the SIEM and set up the SOC services in place for this particular area. So we get involved right from the beginning to help the customer prepare the right license and the sizing, and then we do the complete end-to-end deployment and we set up the SOC operations for customers. So that's how I mentioned here, like cross-pollination from over 400 customers. So we use our complete experience which we learned in the past, and we are learning and will be implemented in all our customer places. So how do we do it? This is through from our proven expertise, relevant experience, and we being the industry leader in this particular service delivery line. And as I mentioned, we don't just do a plain vanilla deployment. We always try to provide more value out, try to give more value to our customers when it comes to the setting up the security intelligence platform in place and the SOC services in place. So when I say SOC services, so what you'll do with what is the security operation services does? So you need to have a security intelligence platform like IBM QRadar in place to have your SOC services in place. So you integrate all your devices, all the log sources which are there in your device, which has which are all in data in silos mode. You integrate everything in one single platform and do the complete correlation, and then do the real-time monitoring on this. So QRadar being the security intelligence platform, it will do the complete correlation and provide you the details on the incidents. But when you have beyond that, you need to have something called the real-time monitoring. So by having the real-time monitoring in place, so we will be able to address the incidents which is identified by the tool around the clock. So for example, if you are if you have the security intelligence tool in place and you don't have the SOC in place, so you have some incidents which is reported by your QRadar in the midnight around 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the night. So you of course you will get a automated email notification by the customer, but there will be there will not be anybody who can immediately respond to that particular incident. So we being a security service provider, so we have a matured way of setting up the SOC. Paladion has its global SOC running, as I said, in multiple locations. So we provide similar set of SOC setup to our customers. So it can be based on the customer's requirement. We can either opt it as a remote operations, or we can deploy people on customer side to do the complete job for the customer. So as I said, professional services offered as part of SIEM. So right from SIEM implementation. When I say SIEM implementation, right from installing the software, rack mounting the hardware, do the partition and install the operating system and install the QRadar software, and then do the connectivity check and provide use cases to the customer and create custom parser development. So when I say custom parser development, so QRadar has like 300 plus out of the box supported DSMs, which is called device support modules. So all the major platforms which is available, which is used normally across the industry, are all supported out of the box by QRadar. And what if you have some requirement for some kind of in-house developed application, or your core banking, or kind of your HRM tool portal, or some other your payroll management portal which is developed in-house. So such kind of applications or any devices which is not supported out of the box by QRadar. So we have a platform which is provided by IBM Security QRadar Security Intelligence, which is called UDSM development, Universal Device Support Module Development. So we, Paladion, being the expert in this particular professional service, so we have developed multiple parsers for the non-supported devices. So we give that as a value-add service to our customers. If the customer has some kind of applications or some kind of critical developed application or custom application to be integrated for log monitoring. So we do that also as a major professional service as part of our SIEM and SOC services. And coming to the main thing, which is SOP development. So so most of the player in the market, they just do the implementation. They'll tell, okay, it's done, and they get the sign off and go. So we don't just come out like that. So once the implementation is done, we create a complete SOP document. SOP is nothing but a standard operating procedure document. So which says how we have done this implementation, what are the credentials, and what are the admin day-to-day admin job. What is the regular backup which is configured, what is the regular archival policy which is set in the QRadar, how you need to do all the step-by-step process. For example, after Paladion does the implementation and steps out, the customer will want to integrate one log source tomorrow. So for one single log source, he will not want to call for a professional service and spend more cost on it. So the customer can very well refer the document on how to do a log integration, log source integration for that particular platform, and you can just create one. And if you want to do some rule fine tuning, create some reports, dashboards. So in all that case, we'll prepare a standard operating procedure document, and we'll hand it over to our customers. So that can be used by the SOC operations, security operations team. So unique SIEM implementation methodology. So what I was talking about is the best practice and the matured implementation methodology we follow. So if you see in this slide, which we are showing the asset valuation and risk profiling. So as a first part of our implementation methodology, so we do the complete asset valuation and the risk profiling for the log sources which is there in scope. So once we identify the entire log source which is there in scope for integration, so we create the log baseline documents. So log baseline documents is nothing but a step-by-step process on how to enable logs in the end device. So we just don't create the documents and share it with the customer. We sit with customer admin team, and then concerned teams like your server admin teams, your firewall admin teams, your application admin teams. So we sit with them and we educate them how to do this, and we help them enable logs in a very effective and quicker manner. So not only enabling logs, it's just not enabling logs are different ways. So we can, if you just enable entire logs, for example in Windows, if you enable all the logs, which is all the logging capabilities which is given by Windows. So out of that, 70% will not be even useful for the customer. So this will eat up your EPS license what you have purchased, and you will not get any value out of it. So we do a complete analysis and we enable only the security related relevant events, which needs to be which is very critical for monitoring. And comes the next step is the product implementation. So deploy the product which is as part of the bill of material, and do the complete customization, create use cases, fine tune the existing use cases, create the alerts and set up configure for automated email alerting system, create new rules, reports, dashboards for real-time monitoring, and then develop installation and handover documents. So this is again a value add from our implementation process. So we create a complete documentation when we when we are finished, and we'll give a complete handover to the customer, and we'll have a 2 days or 3 days training session to the customer on what we have done, what they have to do post we step out. And then develop SLAs to the customer, the service level agreements to be set. We define service level agreements. For example, we have all the rules which are in place. So we have done the fine tuning, we have done the testing, we have done the UAT. So everything is done. So now you are ready to go ahead for the SOC operations. So how do we set the SLAs? For example, critical alerts. Some kind of so we do the rating on for the rules based on the rule categories. So when so based on those particular categories, we can define it as high, critical, and medium. So for critical alerts, so we can set up SLA saying that the critical alerts which is identified has to be addressed by the operations team within 15 minutes, and we need to do the analysis in next 4 hours and provide a complete remediation in next 6 hours. So such kind of SLAs can be developed and set in place as per the customer convenience, or if the customer wants Paladion being the master in this particular thing, so we can follow our SLA which we are following to all our MSS customers globally, and do the complete knowledge transfer will be our the final implementation methodology. Our service models. So what we offer, we saw what we how we do how we implement the SIEM in customer place we saw. So what are the service models which we offer, which we have as part of the SIEM and SOC services offered by Paladion? So we have a model called BOT, build, operate, and transfer. So we build the entire system for the customer. We implement deploy the SIEM tool. We create all the process in place. We do operations for 6 months or 1 year as per the customer's requirement and budget, and then we completely transfer it to the customer's team. And then the next model is the captive implementation. So captive, we have two kinds. So one is in-premise installation and in-premise SOC operations. So when I say in-premise installation, the tool will be purchased by the customer, deployed in customer premises, and we Paladion deploy our security operations team in the customer premises itself in order to carry out the 24/7 remote on-site operations. And the other model is in-premise installation and remote operations. So a few customers will have the challenges of having seating spaces and in order to manage resources, if vendor resources to be present in their premises. So in that ways, we give a very good feasible option to our customer that you buy the tool will be licensed in your name. We'll deploy the tool in your premises, and from our global SOC, we just take a remote site-to-site VPN, secured VPN connection, and we do the remote monitoring job for you. So here the logs is not transferred anywhere out of your organization. It is stored in your network, and we just take a secured VPN connection, and we just do monitoring, and we do the analysis and backend incident management process, and do the alerting to the customer. And full MSS. So full MSS, and the customer don't want to buy a SIEM, then they can leverage our shared SOC in terms of doing the monitoring process. So we can do a complete end-to-end monitoring process for the customer from Paladion managed SOC itself. So they don't have to purchase upfront the tool license, and they can just utilize our existing infrastructure for their compliance requirement and monitoring requirement. So basically, the a customer who has less number of devices, probably come for compliance compliance related monitoring, they will opt for this particular option. Captive deployment with remote monitoring. So this is again the same what I spoke with captive implementation. So captive deployment, we deploy the tool there and do the remote monitoring, and captive deployment with on-site monitoring, which we just discussed. So these are the different service models which we operate as a best practice we give, and we are open to any kind of customization for it. For example, we have a couple of customers where we have deployed a QRadar, and then we are doing the operations post the deployment phase. So there a few of our customer wanted to go with hybrid models. When I say hybrid models, it is like customer will want just one resource who should be present in their environment, in their premises on site for the business hours. So then when the question comes like how do you address the incidents on the post business hours? So we can do the remote access from our SOC, from our global SOC, using the shared resource pool. So we do the monitoring and still we'll do the alerting and incident response to our customers even in the non-business hours. So most of the small small SMEs are opting for this particular model because it is more cost effective and more convenient for the customer in terms of setting up the infrastructure and all this. So so why I want to tell this is, so we Paladion have certain standards, certain models which is in place, and we are always open to customize our service models as per the customer requirement. So like this, we have a couple of models, many kind of models which we can offer to our customer as a security operations services. So this slide shows a few key highlights of Paladion. So as I said, we have the team strength of 230 for our entire SOC operations, and out of which 100 plus is SIEM, who is dedicated only for SIEM delivery and management in the customer premises, who are on the move all the time. And we have skilled certified resources in all the platforms mentioned, like SANS, Checkpoint Networks, mainly the IBM QRadar, IBM Guardian. So all the IBM security tools we have certified, trained and certified professional for our entire IBM security suite. So coming to the end, these are a partial list, a partial customer list I've mentioned here, just for you to have a glance. So we have done the SIM and SOC implementation in many of the banking and BFSI and non-BFSI segments across the globe, and here are a few international customers, our Middle East. And our Southeast Asia customers, Indian customers, just mentioned. So this is a partial list which I have just put in here for for your reference. So I think we have come to the end. So we can have a question and answer session. And so before that, you can have your questions. If you have anything for me or Uma Shankar, you can just type in there in the chat room. And in the meanwhile, we'll open the poll. So it will not take more than 5 seconds. So we just have 5 questions. So you need to just click yes or no. So meanwhile, we'll just open the poll for everybody. So you can start filling the poll, and we'll be open for the question and answer session. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining and for your patience listening. Okay, I think we got a good response from the poll. I think the poll is done. So we have a query here. I'll just read out the question. So for IBM, how do you handle the BYOD related changes in QRadar, given the diversity of operating system applications and lack of complete control as devices are owned by employees? Okay, so I think I'm not very clear. So let me put my understanding here that your requirement is that any kind of customization which is required from the QRadar part in QRadar side in terms of like to go with your requirement. I mean your kind of requirement. So we have something with QRadar which is called FR. So future request. For example, like there are the device, any kind of devices which is even supported out of the box by QRadar, even the operating system applications. We have QRadar would do a research and add all the security modules which needs to be integrated with QRadar. So when the particular device is integrated with QRadar, we start receiving logs. So if there is something specific requirement which a customer is expecting to be captured or to be tuned or configured in QRadar, so QRadar have an option to for all the customers to raise a future request. So the development team will go through the request and then they will try to add that particular feature in the next available in the next release. So I think I can I have understood your question and answered it. So if not, also we don't have any issues. I mean whatever queries you have, you can just send out a mail to us anytime. So we'll be happy to help you guys on that. So I think there's one more question. Does one need to install QRadar client or upgrade anything else on employee device? No. So we don't need to install any QRadar client. So QRadar is a standalone application. So in order to collect logs, we use different protocols like syslog protocol, WMI, and OPSEC based on the device platform. So we use the protocols to pull and push the logs. So for example, the syslog is all push mechanism. So once you enable the logging in the end device, you will be able to get. So you don't need to install any client on the end device. We just have to enable the logging in the end device and collect logs directly through the network. So we don't need to install any client. But for Windows, we use something called WMA protocol. So Windows uses we need to use the pull mechanism. So here we install a intermediate server called Windows agent server, where this particular server, so this is again not no client which is installed on the end device. We will not install the client on your production servers. We can install it in a mediator server, and we can have that as a log collection server for all the Windows machines. So this particular server can remotely pull logs from all your Windows machines which is available in your network. So this is how we collect the logs. So there is no dedicated clients to be installed. Client installation is required on the end device. So there is one more. Has Paladion deployed QRadar in their stack of offering managed secure services to their clients? Yes. Okay. Currently, our global SOC, which is based out in Bangalore, is built on ArcSight because this SOC was established in the year of 2000, and that time ArcSight was the only option for us to start our managed security service business. Currently, yes, in Southeast Asia, we are setting up a huge SOC, which is based out of IBM QRadar. So we already have got a couple of customers who's taking services from our Southeast Asia market. We are delivering the MSS model to those customers using our QRadar MSS setup. So any more questions? Okay, I think we are good to wind up. Thanks again, everybody, for the patience and your time taken to listen to this webinar. Any more queries regarding the QRadar platform or Paladion services? You can write us. You can write the mail to us anytime. We'll get in touch with you at the list. Thank you. Good day. Thank you. Bye.